Okay, welcome back to part 2 of my Longship videos. This one will show the setup of the table, and then the third one will be the raid itself, or the game itself. So very handily on this record sheet, Peter Pig tell you what you need to do to set the game up. So we have play the campaign, which we've done, lay out the 5x3 table, which we have here. And this is all the scenery that we will require. There's going to be some buildings and trees, etc., but we'll add those on once the table has been set out according to the rules. So the first thing to do is decide which column the road will go in, and that is dependent upon the roll of a dice, which we will do. So the road will basically follow a column, and we play down the length of the table. So on the camera now it'll be from left to right. So we can scan out a little bit more there. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? So this will be the defender's base edge, and we'll count the columns from left to right as being 1 to 6. So we roll the dice, we get a 6, which means the road is actually going to be in this edge column here. So we'll lay that out now. So the road is in place, and the second bit now is we place the obligatory 6 buildings of the village that we're going to raise. Each building is a 12x6 piece of MDF with nice texturing on. These ones are from S&A Scenics, who hopefully will be back in production very soon. So interestingly, the defender places the first 2, the attacker will place the second 2, and the defender places the last 2. And there's an interesting method by which we deploy these. So we're going to call this edge the defender's home edge, and this is where the attacker is going to come from. The attacker places his first building piece. So it can either be, it's got to be touching the edge, but it can be touching with both squares. So these are effectively, we're on a 6-inch grid, and this is effectively 2 squares. As you can see with the black dots there, this fits nicely in between those. So it can either touch with 1 square or with both. So what I think we'll do is have 1, and we'll put that there. So here's the road that you can see, because we rolled 6. This was the column 6. Now we use a vector system. Now, if you're not a mathematician like me, this was a little bit confusing initially, but all the buildings are now placed by a vector system. So what we're going to do is roll 2 dice, and that means from either of these squares we'll move either down or across the table in any combination that we want. So let's roll the dice, and we'll show you just how that works. So we've rolled a 1 and a 2. So that means we can come 1 and then go 1, 2, or we can go 2 and 1. Or from this one, 1, 2, 1, or 1, 1, and then, so that's 1 that way and then 2 that way. Or we can go 1 and then across, and then 1, 2. And then either of these squares of this building need to be in one of those squares. And unlike most of the Peter Pig games, I think I'm right in saying this, that they can be alongside one another. So we've got a 2 and a 1. So I think what we'll do is we'll go 1 down, and then 2 across, and perhaps put this building like that. And the next vector always has to come off that building. But the attacker is now going to place 2 of these village pieces. It can be, don't forget, it can in any combination. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3. Or from here, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, 5. So sorry about that. 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the attacker really wants the village pieces as close as he can. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3. And we can put this village on this axis. So just so you can see how that was done, we went from this piece, which is the last piece placed, we went 1 square, 2 squares, 3 squares, 4 squares, 5 squares, and 1, 2, 3. And again, this can go in on any axis, but the attacker wants it as close as he can, so we'll go that way. And now off this piece, we vector again, and it's a 2 and a 2. So we can go 1, 2, 1, 2, and put a village piece or a building piece across there. So as you can see already, this village is spread out quite a lot. But now the defender places the last 2 and vectors off either of these squares. So 6 and a 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we'll go 1. And we could go something like that. And then vector off that last one. Another 6 and a 3. So it's got to go the exact number, I think. I don't think you can be short. So how can we do this? Let's have a look. 6 and a 3, cracky. That's right. So we can go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that'll hit there. So I think this means that this village piece is going to have to be a lot closer to the base edge than the defender might have wanted. I can't see any other way. So it could go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that's probably the furthest back that you can achieve. So we'll start there and go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And maybe pop it like that. So that's not ideal, I don't think. That last roll probably wasn't what the defender wanted, but there are 3 of the buildings here from the village down this end of the table, and we've got 3 this end. So let's see how the rest of the scenery is laid out. Okay, so the defender now places all the rest of the scenery, and there is going to be a chance for the attacker to move this, but for now we have a stream which the defender has chosen. Now this is pushed up against one or other of the edges of a row or column. It could go this way, the length of the table, or it can go across. And I think because the defender will want to slow the attacker down, we're going to go across, and it'll almost cut this village in half, but that's okay, we don't mind that. So there we go. Probably make this side of the table easier to defend than this. And now the defender deploys everything else. So we've got, what have we got? We've got 2 marshes, 2 woods and 3 hills. So I think what we'll do is have perhaps something else to slow the attacker up and put a marsh there. And a marsh here, because that will, or perhaps even like this, because that means that there's, other than the road, there's no free route down the table. Okay, so okay, again, in effort to slow the Vikings down as much as possible. Put a wood here, I think. The attacker is going to get to be able to move these. And maybe a wood here actually as well, because that sort of blocks that village off. And a hill, and a rough hill is difficult to move, so I think maybe let's put that there. So I think that is a legitimate layout. The attacker now gets to try and move some of these. Okay, so we've rolled a 3, which is +2, gives 5 dice for the attacker to try and move a scenery piece other than the road. The road and and the buildings actually. Buildings and road can't be moved. And he needs a 4, 5 or 6. So we place these before rolling them. So we'll put one, I think, on that marsh, and maybe one on that marsh as well. One on this wood, one on this hill. And maybe one on that wood as well. So let's start with this wood. So that can be moved. So we're going to move this out of the way down the bottom. That will also split these two villages, which means if the one of the buildings, this is one big village. If one of these buildings gets into trouble, reinforcements might be a bit slower coming across to help it. So that was quite good. The other wood, we can move that as well. And I think what we'll do is just pop that up in the corner out of the way. The rough hill, that doesn't move. The marsh does move. So let's put this perhaps somewhere more out of the way. We'll pop it up here, I think. Again, to try and perhaps slow down any reinforcements coming through. This is going quite well for the attacker at the moment. And the last bit of marsh, no, that stays where it is. So that is the table laid out. We're going to add some trees and other bits and pieces, buildings, etc. to make it look nice, and then we'll see where we are. Okay, so here's the table at the game start. Just a note that that pen isn't Viking era, so I'll have to remove that. There's some little bits of lichen and clump foliage and a few little stones, etc. I just use that to pretty the table up, but they have no impact on the game. And in fact, these field bits with corrugated card have no impact. But this is the table. So we've got a village alongside a river, which you can imagine here. The Vikings are going to be moving on down the table, and they're going to look to plunder and loot each of these buildings that form part of the village. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see, the woodland down here is as a result of the attacker being able to move the woodland. I probably need a few more buildings actually. I thought I'd probably got more than this, but this is all looking fine. So the building squares look a little bit anemic. Sorry about that, but the next video will be the game proper. Hope you can join me. Just a slight addendum, I've actually found 1 or 2 extra buildings. I think they're more sort of ancient British buildings, but hey, this is my version of Viking time England, which includes the stone circle. It'll have no effect on the game whatsoever, but it just looks quite nice. And there's 1 or 2 round huts, a bit anachronistic, but it makes me happy. Okay, back for the battle very soon.